And one thing that has certainly happened through this period has been the speeding up of the adoption of digital technology. And I'm very pleased to introduce a panel of experts on this very subject, moderated by Andy Westlake, the chairman of European Sponsorship Association. So over to you, Andy, when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And good morning, everybody. Great to be here, and fantastic to hear from the Tokyo 2020. I know from our industry's perspective, everybody's incredibly excited about Tokyo next year. So as introduced, this session is called The Digital Acceleration, the Convergence of Digital and Real World Events. And if COVID has provided nothing, it's provided the necessity around innovation, and we're going to hear from some terrific speakers over the next 45 minutes or so who are going to talk a little bit about how they've used this opportunity to transition their business, and in the world of esport, how they've used this period as an opportunity to kind of really focus on business as usual. So we're going to talk about preparing for the reality of hybrid events. We're going to talk about integrating esport and VR and AR into event strategies. And we're going to talk about measurability. As introduced, I'm Andy Westlake. I'm chairman of the European Sponsorship Association. We're a member association with a mission to inspire, unite and grow the sponsorship industry. And I know from our members over the last 9 months that this topic, the topic of pivoting to digital, has been right at the heart of a lot of the work that we've done. We've been doing a sentiment tracker over the last 6 months to take the temperature of the industry, and the top 5 skills of the future in the latest wave of that tracker are data and analytics, innovation, measurement, content marketing and creativity. So this topic sits right at the heart of our industry, and I know the events industry too. So we've got terrific speakers today. If we can introduce those to you, we have Michael Cole. Michael is the Chief Technology Officer from the European Tour. We have Alban Dechelotte, Head of Partnerships and Business Development EMEA at Riot Games. Michael Dhulst, who's co-founder and CEO of Super League Triathlon. And we have Chester King, Vice President and Chair of the Education, Culture and Wellness Commission at the Global Esports Federation. So, gentlemen, many thanks for joining us today. Chester, can we start with you and get straight into it? First off, tell us a little bit about the Global Esports Federation, and give us, if you would, your reflections on the last 9 months for the esport industry. I know big publishers like Activision Blizzard, for example, were just at the beginning looking to switch to live events, and all of a sudden it's, let's get back to what we know best. What's your reflection for the esport industry?
Yeah, hi Andy, hi everyone. Yeah, so the Global Esports Federation is basically a not-for-profit organisation, kind of on an international basis. We've got 70 member countries at the moment. We've only been founded a year next week, based in Singapore, and I'm helping them on their Education, Culture and Wellness Commission. There's about 150 people, all volunteers, helping in different commissions. Just answering Andy's specific question, I'm actually also a co-owner of the London Royal Ravens, which is the Call of Duty franchise for the UK. And that, as Andy quite rightly said, CDL was gathering some great momentum. We had our first home series event in February in the Copper Box in Olympic Park, London. It was the biggest live event so far this year before COVID happened. And our next event was going to be in June. We were having 2 home series. And the benefit of a home series is when you're playing these competitions in other countries, the fans have a problem if it's a certain time in America or in Asia. For those in other countries, it could be 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning. So there's a huge benefit of having live events. But obviously COVID happened and we had to switch to being online. And Activision Blizzard, Riot and everyone else did a great job of switching it. So all our matches became online, viewership went up, costs came down for team owners, which was good. But the fans, I think, obviously missed out on that interaction, and brands missed out on having physical activation. But I know Activision Blizzard did a great job with CDL and OWL by switching. The finals were very well received. I'm sure the gentleman at Riot will talk about that as well. So we've been very resilient during COVID. We've seen massive growth. And I know we're going to talk about how sports want to interact with esports, who we've helped out. So the last 9 months were challenging, but I think we're in a digital business and we switched very quickly.
Terrific. And there's a poll gone up if people want to take a look at the poll. And it's an interesting question. The question is, at which games should esport be added to the Olympic programme? I always wonder whether people actually inside the esport industry want esport added to the Olympic programme, but it'll be interesting to get people's reflections on that. Alban, maybe a little bit on the last 9 months from a Riot perspective. Obviously the LEC, maybe one of your bigger tournaments, was hosted in Berlin. That had to stop. What's it look like for you?
So thanks for having me. For us, obviously, Riot Games is a game publisher. We are very committed into supporting the best players of the world of our game, and therefore we invest massively in what people call esports nowadays. So we organize competition. One of them is a league that is playing like 52 days a year, like an enormous numbers of weeks, and we host everything in the studio, which was the studio of Big Brother before. So it's a $10 million facility that we invested to create this show. What happens when some members of the crew get the symptoms is that you have to cancel your show. It was the first time in 7 years that we have to cancel a show, and it forces us to be innovative, as you mentioned earlier. Like, first of all, we find a way in less than a week to replace a multi-million dollar facility by people working alone with their computers at home and recreating virtually the facility by connecting the players together, creating a broadcast, creating a product people will enjoy to watch. So that's the first thing, the fear, and then the reaction of innovation. Then we have to solve some simple challenge, latency. For us, what is important is that the players play with the same reaction time. So we created some virtual environment to allow that, but we also invested a lot of resources to make sure the integrity of the sports was maintained with some things I cannot describe, but like cameras and doors and phones and things that allow us to make sure that the coach are not interacting with the players and the players are not able to watch the other team playing and take some information that they shouldn't have when they play on the stage. And then to finalize on a positive note, I think we've also been able to do things that we've never been able to do before. So we wanted to have live performance from artists in our bigger show for the finals, but the calendar was always a challenge. And honestly, put an artist on stage in the middle of a setup for esports is not easy. So first time with this remote setup, the fact that we're all remote, we're all virtual, we've been able to invite some DJ from Warner Music to create a live performance remotely. And that was a great additional value that was generated by the constraint of COVID.
I was sitting watching CSGO on the BBC last night, unbelievably, and all of the athletes sitting in their bedrooms at home competing. A really interesting thing to see. Michael Cole on the European Tour then. It looks like a nice background there. You're at an event, clearly. Obviously, as we journeyed into the spring, you were already invested in innovations in esport, the European Series. So the switch to things like the BMW Trackman Invitational that you must have felt less complex for you. Maybe talk about the European Tour's response to this last 9 months and the integration of esport into your organisation.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, for moderating this session, and also for Ben for the invitation today. As you can see, this is a live event. This isn't a fantasy backdrop, and hopefully the quality will stand up. You know, we're particularly pleased to be able to bring our sport back, and actually for this particular event in Dubai, with fans coming back to one of our events for pretty much the first time since the COVID period. Going back to the question, particularly around, what is the European Tour doing in this new space? Well, actually, even before COVID, we had announced our venture into esport, what we call the E-Tour. The European E-Tour is a tournament series based upon World Golf Tour. It's in partnership with Top Golf and presented by DreamHack. And following, it very much follows the schedule of the physical tournament. So people have a chance to compete for a spot in the international live events throughout the year. They can enter E-Tour qualifiers, utilizing the game WGT WGT, the World Golf Tour, and then these the top finishers will then originally it's envisaged for them to travel to physical games and compete in regional and then ultimately finals. We've had to adjust that somewhat because of COVID. So whilst the structure is still moderately the same, all of the regional heats in the final will take place in a virtual context. And you also mentioned the BMW Trackman Invitational, Andy, and this actually did materialize as a result of 2020 in the current COVID period. And this really is very much about the professional game. We have 18 of our European Tour professionals playing in a series of 5 events. And actually they play a virtual golf tournament using the latest simulator technology. Again, incredibly successful, further demonstrating, I guess, our aspiration to really kind of focus on entertainment, and of course golf is our product, but through a variety of different formats, both in the physical sense but also in the virtual sense. It enables us really to change that conversation, to reach out to new audiences, and judging by our engagement figures over the COVID period, very much a strategy that appears to be working. The next phase of really what it's like to get live sport back, which was a that we were going to come on to. For CTOs like myself, involved in the sport industry, these are indeed challenging times, and we are tasked to not only help maintain the operational well-being of our organizations, but equally to assist our sports back into the production line. Nobody wished for this period. However, it has created a moment of opportunity for accelerated innovation, and the technology industry is risen to that challenge. It may be through enhanced security protection for the org, for health protection bubbles, what we call the biosecure bubbles, to ensure that we create a health and safety environment for all attendees, and really helping us to adjust to this norm. We have Andy back, or do you want me to continue? Happy to continue. And this is my view.
We lost the host, Alp. I think we should talk about triathlon. What do you think?
I'm happy to talk about triathlon. Talking about triathlon, indeed. So Super League Triathlon, we are a challenger brand in the space of triathlon, and we set ourselves the goal to become a triathlon has always been a participation sport, and to progress triathlon to become a spectator sport. And becoming a spectator sport, we've done that through innovations, to working with the best athletes in the world, to having a big focus on broadcast, but also to deliver more experiences on the ground. And that is always around live events. So not being able to have live events threw us a challenge, and forced us to innovate more, and obviously a challenge that we accepted happily. The point, and I think what I wanted to emphasize here in this panel is a product that we have done that we call the Arena Games, which was a blended event, so partly in real life, part virtual, in collaboration with Zwift. And the idea, actually, funnily enough, came last year at this conference, at that time live in Glasgow, when Zwift and UCI were talking about their plans for the Zwift UCI World Championships, the Virtual Cycling World Championships, which is actually happening today. And attending the conference, I said, okay, as we want to be the first one who do a virtual event in triathlon. Obviously, COVID then helped us fast track that idea. We didn't plan it to do it in 2020, and the event took place in August this year. It was the first time the best triathletes in the world back in action in an actual event. It took place in Rotterdam. It was broadcasted around 42 channels, and additional to that, we had close to 600,000 live viewers across our digital channels. and the periphery of the content had 3 million video views. So I think a great for us in terms of producing something new and being accepted by the audience who we're doing it for. But also we saw some great successes for our hosts. We did a survey, and we saw that 61% of the people filling in the survey were actually inspired to do more healthy activity by the event, and actually 65% of the viewers said, "Well, this we are keen to visit Rotterdam in the near future." So I would say very much successful campaign we had, driven by COVID-19, but it also has an opportunity to extend beyond COVID-19, because I think we recognized as a brand that this can be part of the portfolio we deliver, and we added to next to our typical live events, and it engages a different audience, different opportunities. Because we for the first time it's triathlon in a stadium. We can, and because of it's in a stadium, and because of the collaboration with Zwift, we have access to more data, so we can create a more entertaining, more submersive show around it, giving more insights into data, which is obviously something that people like to see. So indeed, a great challenge is thrown to us by COVID, but on the back of it, we've developed a new product to our portfolio that we will continue to nurture and continue to grow.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's really good that you called the Zwift event a virtual event, because there's a bit of a debate in between sport and esports of what is classed an esport and what's classed a virtual sport. So for me, Zwift isn't an esport. League of Legends and Valorant is an esport, and Zwift is virtual sports, and there's a bit of a disconnect. And I have mentioned this to UCI, saying, please don't call cycling indoors an esport. With respect, it's a virtual sport. And going on, I sit on the IOC's esports and gaming liaison group, and I think one of the questions is going to be about Olympics. What esports will be in Olympic sports? I think virtual sports first will be get involved. So I think Zwift is a great activity, and I can see that. But the people who are going to win those events are professional cyclists. They're not professional gamers. So it's interesting to what you're doing. I'm glad you said virtual and not esports. So
yeah, indeed, it is very much. It's very different, of course, right? The event we've actually done two types of events. One was real virtual event where indeed athletes were sitting at home and racing on their bikes, similar as what Zwift has done many times also with the UCI. The event we've done was in real life, so it was in a stadium, and athletes were actually swimming in a pool, tracking that, and then jumping on a static treadmill, and then ultimately that feat was the game feat, right? But of course it's a virtual event or a blended event, but indeed probably not esports. Very different than what you and what Alban is doing. Yeah.
I think the big topic is like the balance between spectator sports and participative sports in a way. Although we only had 6,000 people in our final, we had 45 million people watching, and we have roughly 300 million people who downloaded the game and played the game the last 10 years. So I think this is the balance to find. It's are you trying to build a platform to engage people to play more? In our case, the name would be a video game. And are you trying to build a platform for people to engage with their fandom, watching and observing and enjoying the show, where we do an opening ceremony with an artist, and where we do just set up the best stage possible so that it looks not only for the 6,000, but also for the 45 million people watching. That's where I think the balance needs to be found for every single property that asks for, okay, what digital could do for me? Is it practice? Then, okay, we need to create a platform to engage. That could be physically with virtual sports or virtually with gaming. Or do I want to create something for people to engage? And all the OTT platform, like the Project Golf or thing like that, I think that's also relevant in terms of innovation and creating a platform digitally.
Yeah, so Michael Cole, I'm involved in golf as well, and it's interesting. We've got 3 indoor simulators by the guys from Korea, and it's really interesting to see the involvement, especially in the UK when the weather's not so great, of people playing indoors and playing that. So I know in Korea they've got a league which is based on indoor simulating golf. Do you think, from a European point of view, is that something that you'll aim to have, like a specific league purely for indoor simulate those that don't make the main tour, or not? Is that something you've been thinking about?
I mean, it may be an aspiration that we're probably not yet ready to get into at the moment. It's an interesting debate about, what is esports. And, for us, that's why we have the 2 products right now. We have one which is about fan engagement, and that's about actual participation. And then we have the other one, which is about viewing, which is why we have the professionals involved and very much in a kind of virtual context. It's really about the content generation, because let's face it, right now there's only one fan, and that is the armchair fan. And therefore, it is important that we address those respective audiences. But for us, this is I guess, we've had to react to a situation, certainly with the latter of those esports that I described. I think there's an interesting question you raised there, and it's a broader topic in terms of, many of the innovations and creativities that we've seen over the last 6 months have been born out of necessity, and that necessity has been driven by COVID. Now, what's really interesting is, has this accelerated people's vision? Has it accelerated the digital transformation? And therefore, what are the aspects that actually are going to remain as legacy? And I think, that is an interesting question, certainly for people like myself and presumably in the world of triathlon, because you're taking a traditional sport that has to have a new pathway, whereas in your area it is already established as an esport, and therefore the impact on you is a little different. I kind of often use the analogy that we're all in the same storm, that is one called COVID, but actually we're in a different boat, and how we navigate through those waters is very different for different sports.
Yeah, so Alban, on the League of Legends point of view, it's an amazing. I've got a team in the UKLC, so it's been really incredible what you guys are doing, and also with Valorant coming on board. One of the things that I think one of the questions which was going to be asked was about the Global Esports Games in 2021. I don't know if you know enough about that. That Tencent are our partner at the Global Esports Federation. Do you know anything about that yet, or?
No, I know there are some conversations, obviously. But
yeah, so
I think what is important to bear in mind is we all learn a lot of lessons. I mean, for example, accountability for us is something that was key across all the season, is to think about how we can add value to our partners. So obviously for host cities that we work with for the 2020 program, that means that we will have to postpone and find ways to organize the way back to the cities we couldn't deliver. Budapest is a great example. We created a language feed just to deliver value back to our fans so that they can have something back from not having the events. For partners, we introduced some new branding inside the game that we never did before, and we created this as a give back to the partners. And finally, increasing accountability in terms of value back. So the measurement we use in sponsorship in football for years are the same one we're applying now for esports in terms of Nielsen media evaluation, tracking all the viewership, sentiment surveys. We just apply that and we check, and the result for this year has been tremendous. Of course, the fact that the viewership increased by 70% helps, but we also put together a new platform to connect our fans in a way never done before.
Hi, everybody. Hello. I'm sorry. I'm
Hello,
stepping
you.
in for Andy here. Hi, Ben. Here from Host City. I've met all of you before, apart from Chester. So nice to meet you, Chester. At last. Chester, I'm interested to hear what your views are on this of the esports ecosystem and how you're sort of building a framework for all of the everyone involved in esports to sort of come together under a unified federation. Why do you think there's a need for that? And I'll also be interested to get Alban's view on that, actually.
Yeah, so I have a day job as well. So I run the British Esports Association as well, which was founded 4 years ago. And at that time, there was another international federation, but they had different values to what the Global Esports Federation have got. So the Global Esports Federation was established, as I say, 12 months ago. Its founding partner is Tencent, and that was very interesting to me because the other federation didn't have publisher support or publisher involvement. And I think, from our point of view, we're not a governing body because the publishers govern all their IP and they do a fantastic job. We're more of a convening federation where we're trying to bridge the gap between those who are coming from sports and those in esports, and how can we share best practice. And we're also members of the IOC's Esports and Gaming Liaison Group. And it was interesting that President Back last year said that every sport needs to have a gaming strategy, not necessarily an esports strategy, but a gaming strategy. So I think our idea, as I said earlier, bring everyone together. How can we share best practice, best values? How can we look after the players? How can we look after the fans? And it's been an incredible journey. And where we've ended up going into, in particular under my commission under education, culture and wellness, is in the UK now we've got over 200 children studying at high school level esports courses, not only, not about being a better gamer, but about the whole ecosystem and industry. And then we've got a dementia prevention study happening with Imperial Health about how, as part of moderation, gaming can help with your memory function. And then we've got a group working on wellness, eye wellness, mental health wellness, physical wellness, and esports. So I think there was a need because the publishers quite rightly are running their single view and their commercial, which is good. And then we're trying to help from a grassroots point of view push up. So as I say, we've only been going for a year. It's a not-for-profit. We're all volunteers. But we're very lucky to have Tencent as a partner, but also we've signed up 6 other publishers, so Capcom, Konami, Sega as well. So just bringing everyone together for a conversation rather than trying to govern.
Very good. I think I'm back now.
Welcome.
So apologies for that. Apologies. I've just been running up the rows, trying desperately to make my internet connection work, but I'm back on Zoom now. So thank you for your patience, everybody. Michael Cole, let's come back to you. And if somebody's asked this question in my absence, please do tell me. When we did get back to live golf some months ago, you've seen record audiences for the Rolex series across the sort of the late summer. Talk about the technology that made that return such a success, Michael, and if innovations that were necessary this year will continue to be integrated into your game going forward.
Back, Andy, and I did touch on some of this earlier, and we've actually had a very, very interesting conversation. But just to, I guess, finish off some of the points that I was making previously, in my view, this is a moment in time for technology. Digital transformation will, absolutely bring people in sport together. Yes, it's been born out of necessity around creating the safest environments, but it's also creating a new pathway for the future. And this shouldn't be by any means a retrenchment when we do go back into that new norm. It's an enhanced approach into a new chapter. That's what this transformational period really brings. But I'll just make this kind of one point really. Often it's human nature to talk about more. Everything's about being bigger, better, more than. Actually, I just want to emphasize the word less for a little while, for a moment. But because us, again, out of necessity, we've had to bring in innovation and technology that has created a contactless environment around social distancing. We've had to create a ticketless environment. We've had to create a cashless environment. We did not have these capabilities before. And very much, yes, these concepts appeared on our strategic roadmap. But now, the timeline has changed and the importance has changed out of that necessity, a real unity of purpose. And therefore, this is about, really strong legacy that is born out of an acceleration towards our vision. So hopefully that answers the question a little more fully.
Yeah, that's terrific. And a question for Alban about the League of Legends Worlds. You saw extraordinary demand, Alban, for the World's tickets. I think the stats were 6,300 seats available and 3.2 million registrations. And I was looking at a quote from Nick Troop, who's the executive producer of your event. He said, "When we've hosted events in stadiums and arenas all over the world, there's this moment of being present. When people walk into the building, then they know they're at the Worlds. We wanted to create that exact same sensation this year, just in a different way." So talk about the virtual experience that you're creating for fans alongside those big standout events.
I mean, yeah, we're used to frustrate people with our live events. Probably for World's final, we're never going to have stadium big enough to host all the demands. So it's a good sentiment, but also something we need to manage. The reality is that the core product for us is the broadcast and is the people at home, because we know that not everybody will be able to go to the stadium. So clearly for us, the experience that you can see at home is the core product. We create some augmented reality with dragons and musical acts that actually physically you don't see when you are in the stadium because it's all virtual. And the best experience for some piece of it was sometimes to watch it from home. And you watch it in like about 20 languages and you watch it from your own device. And we try to make it as interactive as possible. But yeah, we have learned to explain our fans that it's a high likelihood that they won't get the tickets.
Yeah, and just very briefly touch on, because we're at a conference called Host City. You left some hard infrastructure in the city of Shanghai, right? Manhole covers and statues and models of some of the key players from the game. Just share a little bit about what's left behind in Shanghai as a result of you being there for the Worlds.
So first of all, Shanghai it's probably the capital of esports right now globally. We have a fantastic facility there with studios and infrastructure that run on a yearly basis with the Chinese league called the LPL, which is probably the biggest esports league in the world right now. So we didn't need to leave a lot. It's already a lot there. But at the same time, yeah, every time we bring in events, we try to build partnership with the local authorities. We want these events to create a legacy, not only in terms of physical goods with like leaving some materials, but also impulsing the growth of grassroots, like Chester mentioned earlier, and initiated some path for the future pros to join the league.
Yeah, very good. And Michael, coming back to you on Super League Triathlon, you've done quite a lot of work over lockdown with RBC, challenging your community of fans to walk, swim, cycle and run 100,000 kilometres. It kind of shows that you can activate your community, or you have activated your community over this period in a way that maybe you couldn't have done before. Just tell us a little bit about that, and will those innovations continue to be part of your vision going forward?
Yeah, those innovations will definitely continue to be a part of it. And yeah, I think as Alban touched on before, for us, it's the key point is obviously the professional athletes and the inspirational aspect they bring. But beyond that, obviously, it's also it's the fans and it's the participants, right? And for communities where we go, participation and pursuing a healthier lifestyle through triathlon or through swimming, bike and running is always key. Jersey is a community, is a venue where we've been going for a couple of years now, and where we are well integrated in the community. And of course, because of the pandemic, we were not able to host a physical event. So again, we thought about how can we innovate, how can we leverage technology to still keep the spirit of Super League alive, but also very much have that message of health, right? Have that message of pursuing a healthier lifestyle. And that's why we decided, together with our partners, RBC as the main sponsor, but also very much Jersey and the tourist body of Jersey and the government of Jersey to inspire healthy activities, swimming, biking and running. And we challenged the population of Jersey. There's 100,000 people living on Jersey. We challenged them to collectively swim, bike or run 100,000 kilometers in the period of 2 weeks. And yeah, there was a lot of people picked it up. We smashed the target of 100,000 kilometers collectively. We donated a fair amount of money to charity, and it was a great success. And for us, again, it's an innovation. We've built the tech now on our website to elongate the impact we have on a venue, to engage the wider community with a very important message that is, well, driven forward or pushed forward through because of COVID, and we will continue to do so. And again, it delivers value for us in engaging our fans and the communities. It delivers values for the hosts, and it delivers value for sponsors. So it's a win in these trying times.
Yeah. And Chester, one of the topics we were asked to cover as part of this panel is how we might apply the measurability of digital events to the real world. I guess this is one of esports' great advantages, especially the commercial relationship between rights holder and sponsor, in that 99% of the product lives in the digital space, and then therefore 99% of the engagements can be measured in some way. Does that positioning help you and the teams that you're involved with embrace live events in a slightly different way and to apply the kind of processes that you've traditionally applied to the world of live events?
Yeah, the one challenge that I think we've got in esports is how organised sport is. So, the calendar in esports is challenging for brand managers. We talk to a lot of them in the UK. Everyone knows, when there isn't COVID, when the Premier League fixtures are, when the Euros are, when the FA Cup final is, etc., etc. In esports, it's a bit less organised. I'm saying this respectfully. So I think something for us we're trying to push is about having calendars. And I think, if you haven't seen the video of the Worlds that Alban was just talking about, it is incredible. And the online version is incredible. Return investment is a big thing. You still got traditional brands or traditional thinking of people wanting physical activation, but the return investment is key. And I think what we're seeing now in esports is that people are presenting esports in a slightly different way to traditional sport, that you start off smaller, try an activation, get some return investment, which is trackable through the digital measures, as you just said, and then build up. But I know, as I say, for the stuff that we're doing in the UK, there's brands that want to be at a live event and they don't quite understand or don't know how to do it. I mean, one of the businesses that has really had momentum was the movie business. So if you look about the advertising around, how accessible it is for that demographic of people playing traditional video games or esports into movies, it is quite a good correlation. So I think it's evolving. I think next year is going to be challenging because a number of live events aren't happening. I know, from a Call of Duty point of view, and it's no secret, the majority of those matches at CDL will not be. There won't be a home series in the UK, for example, next year. So I think brands that want to get into esports have to understand the measurability in that, and that's why people like Alban, do a great job on kind of presenting that. But so I think there is a measurability, but I think it's just understanding that we aren't sport, and it's not as easy to kind of measure apples and pears.
Yeah. And Alban, you've been given the perfect cue in there. Obviously from a Riot Games perspective, you have, a host of partners, both endemic esport partners, but some really big and often surprising brands. Louis Vuitton, for example, a partner of reporting results to your partners.
Yeah, I think you're mentioning the diversity of partnership that join us. I think it's extraordinary. I think it's the case for esports in general. What was historically 10 years, 15 years ago, just endemic partners, so the equivalent of Adidas and Nike in football, which are Alienware, Logitech, headsets, chairs, Secret Lab, PCs. That's the Adidas of Nike of esports. So of course, this brand needs to be there because they want to be associated to the biggest pro. That was the first wave of partners. Then 5 years ago started to have like non-endemic, as we call them, which are brands that are actually partially interested in the audience. And that's amazing to have like the Pringles, the Coke, the Red Bull that just don't look at the performance side, but actually wants to be there because they think they can connect with the audience that fits with their product. And recently we have seen like kind of a third wave I would name Deco. I would name Louis Vuitton. Brands that are not particularly interested in the audience because there's not a particular fit in terms of audience. They are not here for the performance either, but they come from the mythology of esports. Esports is the new global sports. It's symbolic of innovation, of technology, and as brands, they want to be part of this. And they want to position their brands to be one of the most innovative one. Louis Vuitton, I've been privileged to work with them 10 years ago to work on the trophy case for the FIFA World Cup in 2010. So it was a pleasure to invite them to become the trophy case partner of the World Championship 10 years later.
Yeah, amazing. And a really surprising deal, I think, at the time when it happened. Michael, maybe coming back to you, I know we've got 3 or 4 minutes left. Once fans are allowed back into your events, how are you intending on using data to improve performance and engagement with your partners? I know I've seen you elsewhere talking about the intelligent course. Tell us a little bit more about your ambition there.
Yeah, well, I guess, this is a conference predicated on a host city, so it kind of makes sense to talk about host cities. And, we've been creating small towns for our tournaments for many years, because everything we do is about overlay. The facility you see me in here and behind me is overlay, from operational centres to hospitality pavilions, spectator villages, player lounges. However, the vision is very much to evolve from small towns to smart cities, leveraging emerging technologies such as AI and IoT, the Internet of Things, to create, what we do refer to as the intelligent course. Because quite literally, when everything is connected, then anything is possible. And why are we doing this? Because ultimately, we want to change golf from being, from being just a sport for loyal fan experiences, to becoming a true spectator experience for new audiences. And based upon our concepts that we've run in 2019 and 2020, we very much intend to incorporate those learnings and to create that intelligent course concept to go on to build the smart city, and ultimately our ultimate aim to ensure we have and drive quality on any tournament in any country, anywhere in the world. We want to deliver as much of that in a virtual sense, what I call the tournament as a service, delivering those more software-oriented services from the cloud. That is our bold aim and ambition. Yeah,
amazing. And we're going to come to Michael for one last question, but I think we've got a video to play first, just before we go into that. So whoever's controlling the buttons, I'm sure, can play the video for us.
2020 has forced sport to adapt, to evolve, and its Super League Triathlon to deliver a world first. In August, the SLT Arena Games delivered a never-before-seen blend of real and virtual competition, a pool swim in real life, and in the epic virtual world of Zwift, a turbo trainer bike and treadmill run legs, all indoors and with all the excitement of every Super League event, offering unparalleled immersion and deep data from world champions and Olympic superstars, and taking Rotterdam to the world. Broadcast in 162 territories on 42 networks with a huge digital presence, including over 3 million video views, reaching nearly 30 million people. All alongside a storm of print and online coverage, over 200 unique pieces of content published worldwide, mobilising key demographics and positioning Rotterdam as a hub of multi-sport innovation. It can do the same for you. Super League Triathlon remains agile to deliver world-class events with huge impact, and the feedback tells the story. Appreciated by the athletes.
Really thankful for the platform given us, because especially in that time, I think it's a perfect format.
Being able to race is just amazing, and especially top quality event like this one, different for everyone, but I think all the athletes really enjoyed it.
I've never done Super League before, and it's like
competitive against some of the best guys.
Yeah, it's very organised, and it just looks really cool. Yeah.
and also by the public. The viewer survey delivering a 90% approval rating as SLT stepped up to provide racing when communities needed it most, with 2/3 of viewers saying they're now more likely to visit Rotterdam for the first time. The SLT Arena Games, first a game changer and now a proven concept.
Thank you.
Look, just quickly looking forward to 2021 then, you know, a social media strategy that's broken records. I think the first triathlon brand to break 1 million views on a single TikTok, the birth of the SLT Arena Games. What's 2021 look like for you?
Right. A continuation of those innovations. I think indeed the Arena Games was a great success. We touched on the participation campaign that we've done with RBC, also something digital, something that tech that we've now developed on our website. We will continue to do that, and we've also learned the value and the emphasis we should put on our digital channels, because we've been able to more than double our database of fans over the year 2020, when we actually don't have any events. We had to cancel, except for the Rotterdam event, we had to cancel 10 of our real live events. So it's really learned that innovation and technology plays a big role and has a big impact also, and it's forced us to do those innovations. But for 2021, we're very much looking forward to having real live events again, probably the latter part of 2021, and in the of 2021 we will continue to do Arena Games. We have events lined up in Munich, in London, so very much looking forward to 2021 and implement these lessons learned of 2020.
Yeah, very good. Well, look, I think we've run slightly over the result of the poll, by the way. 55% saying that esports should never be added to the Olympic programme, and 36% for 2028. So we shall see. But to the panel, thank you ever so much for participating. Many apologies for my technical breakdown, April form. And until next time, I'll hand back to the team.
Thank you, team. Thanks, Andy. Thanks to all of the speakers there. Great to hear, Michael, that the idea for the virtual Arena Games was formed out to Host City last year, and a perfect example there of hybridization of a real world event. So thank you.